Hello and welcome to the Almocenary Moment. My name is Aaron Spears.
And I'm Brad Hathcock. Long layoff.
Hmm. I joked that we were going to do our next monthly one last episode, and
I think here
turns
we
out,
are, right?
yeah. Whoops.
It's okay. It's summertime, and we're both busy. So I think it's important that we get them in when we can.
I
Gotta
hate summer
keep
so
the fan
much.
happy.
God damn, the summer the worst.
But why? Like, why do you hate the summer so much? Like,
It's
weather
hot.
aside, yes, of course, it's hot.
Well, the sun. I like the darkness of winter, and the sun is up till whenever. Um, I just it's not the vibe. I don't. I guess the kids say.
I'm also not a summer fan, to be honest. I like fall is my shit. I love the fall. It's like sometimes you can still wear shorts, but you also get to wear like long sleeves, hoodies, jeans. Like that's my vibe. But
Well, also summer is when sort of sports ends for like 2 months, and so there's like
except
nothing.
except baseball. And who the
Yeah,
fuck
nobody
wants
wants
to
to do
watch that?
that. Like, yeah, it's just like all there's like the only thing that really, which is probably what we're going to talk about today a lot, is just the movies. Like that's when summer movies come out.
Do we have to? I mean, we gave a pretty pop culture podcast last time.
Well, I was going to split it into two parts. I was gonna start with either. Well, we should probably start with the COVID stuff from yesterday, actually.
You know what we should do, Aaron? Have a short movie podcast called Positive Reviews of Bad Movies. So we watch shitty movies, like we're talking twos and threes on the IMDb, low Rotten Tomatoes percentages, and give the positives of those movies.
Boy, I could do that. I watched no less than like two or three really bad Italian movies over the past month, but like I found positive things in them.
I think you can. So, like, we can kick this off. I went and saw Pinocchio Unstrung.
Hmm.
So, for the people who have listened to our podcast before, this is by the same director who brought you Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2, um, Bambi, The Reckoning, and Peter Pan Neverland Nightmare. And they keep cranking them out. And I will say, like, the movie was not good. I know it was not good, but the practical effects of the film were actually quite good. So, like the puppet that is Pinocchio in this, they actually made like an animatronic puppet out of it. And actually, in the one thing you don't see all the time in a film is during the end credits, they showed you how they actually made some of the scenes. So, like in one scene, he's like checking this girl out in the shower, and there's like a comedy piece to it. Not that you'll watch it,
I
um,
won't.
but he Pinocchio believes that you are a real person, and he gets taught about like penises, and he like sees this girl in the shower, and she's like, and Pinocchio's like, she cut off her penis. Like, what the fuck? And then he gets scared and like falls down, and she steps out of the shower onto his nose, and they actually showed like how they did that scene, in the end credits of the movie. So it was cheesy. It was stupid. But they really did some interesting things with the animatronics and stuff. And the actual story behind it, how they adapted the Pinocchio story into a more like, I guess, realistic point of view, was interesting. Um, so I will say those are some of the positives. And Robert Englund, who played Freddy Krueger, what played cricket in the movie. So that'll get me every time because he's the goat.
Okay, Brad. I've
See,
given you.
that's what a channel could be, where we just do these like short 15-20 minute you know
I don't want
reviews of
to.
bad movies.
I, was in until you'd make me watch Pinocchio. Uh, okay. Here's the thing. Uh, when you tell a lie and your nose grows, it's bad, right?
Mm-hmm.
So watch this. Yesterday, Dr. Fauci was getting interviewed by the Senate hearing. He was, there to plead the Fifth Amendment, and his nose kept growing. I don't know if you noticed that.
Yes. And that is because he's asked such questions as, what color is your tie? And he decides to plead the fifth. So,
They asked him what color the carpet was, and he's like, "Can't say." Actually pretty. Let's talk
was
about it.
actually one of the most unproductive hearings of all time. Like,
It wasn't. It wasn't. So here's the thing. I'm gonna give Rand Paul credit, and I don't want to do that, but he actually asked his questions very calmly and actually made Fauci look terrible by, not answering any of them. And also he's very clear about the fact that he got like a pardon for like a decade, and that made him not immune to answering any of the questions. And I thought that was really effective.
yeah, but the problem is, right, the hearing itself is considered entirely partisan, so it's effective. Like, I think the thing is here that, like, what didn't help is the fact that everyone already has a belief on what, like, their side is, right? Like,
Uh-huh.
that either, like, even articles have been written that, like, oh, everybody already moved on from COVID until Republicans decided to do this, like, et cetera, et cetera. I find it encouraging that they're actually attempting to hold somebody accountable for something, even though they don't hold themselves accountable for anything. There's some kind of, I guess, relief in that part, right? But the fact of the matter is, you either hated Dr. Fauci to start with, and this didn't change anybody's mind, either way, either direction, for or against Fauci. And so it doesn't matter. People are complaining, oh, why would they release like his own like journal pages, and like, that's private, and like all this other shit. Well, sure, he's a narcissist. We all knew that. I mean, so that didn't really change. So what I'm saying is, the hearing didn't matter in terms of, with all the money they spent for it and everything, in terms of actually changing anybody's mind. And he's not going to go to prison. So it almost was pointless to an extent. Regardless of the questions that were asked, nothing was answered because
I
he pled the
mean,
fifth the whole time.
but there were some answers in that those diary pages. I don't like that people call it a diary, like he was writing it pen and paper in his bedroom. He
Right.
was actually doing it on like a government computer, so that was all like available to them. And I don't know that he even thought that would ever become available to the public. But things that were interesting were the the origin, which I don't know if ever we talked about it on that Variety article with Peter Daszak, when they came out with all that. But the diary pages do reveal that in real time he was saying this likely came from a lab, and then they came out and said no, it didn't, and they had no way to prove that. And so it was like they had, based on no evidence, said it came from somewhere else, and you could see like the real time makings of a conspiracy.
Sure. And there was one, I guess, senator from like Florida, who she even said, you talked about like not wearing a mask and then telling everybody that they
Mm.
had to wear a mask, and the 6 feet, part, like you admitted that there was absolutely no science behind it, and that it was just, oh, everybody agrees 6 feet, like with no data to back it up whatsoever. And those things are important, but again, everyone's already made up their mind about everything. And you now have Democrats not showing up or whatever, and citing that, oh, this will turn people off of public service, by doing these hearings and this, that, and the other thing. But if the shoe were on the other foot, they'd be fucking doing the same thing, right? Like,
They will, yes,
yeah, I
indeed,
mean,
next year.
yeah, when Democrats win in the midterms, if they get the majority, they're going to impeach Trump. And it's like, we're going to spend, quite honestly, the next 3 years just doing this and like relitigating everything over the last fucking 10 years. And it's just fucking annoying and frustrating. Like, we got the recordings of Biden talking to her and him explicitly stating that he has classified materials, and her still coming out and being like, oh, everyone's just going to believe that you're a senile old man and like that there's no reason to prosecute.
I actually believe that, by the way.
And 100%. I mean, he is a senile old man, but like when he took those classified documents, he wasn't, right? So like that has to be taken into account as well. It's not about his current state. It's about his state at the time in which he took those classified documents. So, it's going to just be fighting back and forth between Democrats and Republicans. I even just saw a fucking Democrat, I forget who it was, I don't think he's like a senator or anything, but came out and was like, oh, well, there is no policies to enact if we win the midterms because it'll all just get vetoed by Trump. The only thing that we can do is like investigate, and impeach. It's like, okay, so you're not actually trying to win to accomplish anything for the people, right? Like you're just trying to win to not lose.
Well,
like,
there's plenty to investigate, but I don't want to dismiss what happened yesterday because we were talking about, like we haven't really talked about COVID much. I mean, we revisit it once in a while, but there was never like a commission, like the same way that like the Challenger space shuttle was, the Warren Commission, like big things that happened, and we investigated them, and like NASA was like, here's everything, let's get to the bottom of this. I don't know that we're ever going to get that, but somewhere down the road, somebody's going to write the book, and this hearing would probably be in that book because it's pretty telling.
Well, so I would push back on that in the sense that the Challenger disaster was less of a partisan take, right? Like,
this shouldn't be, though.
I can't say that I paid attention to like those hearings, things like that, and this shouldn't be as partisan as it is. But we all know that there was a clear divide during COVID between Republicans and Democrats because Republicans were opening up states and they were, speaking out against Fauci and like all the shit. And let's not mince words here. Trump is the one that initially shut down the country as a Republican. But it got pushed even harder and further once Biden came into office. And there is an important distinction to make. With the Challenger disaster, it probably wasn't like that. It wasn't as partisan as it is today. But going back to kind of like what I was saying is like Democrats are sitting here saying we have to protect the institution, right? So it's not just about Fauci. It's about not giving people answers to protect the integrity of the institution. And Republicans are actively saying, no, this institution is fucked up and like needs to be fixed.
Well, and they're right, and Democrats are. It's interesting to watch the media kind of revert back to that like weird defensive posture where they're like, all of these unsubstantiated allegations, and they say words like that, and it's like, what do you mean unsubstantiated?
They're definitely not unsubstantiated.
We know where the money went. I mean, we know that the money was fungible, and so the money was going to, the gain of function research, even if it was like earmarked for something else. That's not how like research works. So you give them money and then they do whatever they're going to do with it, and then they present you with a plan, and then you go like, okay, we'll give more money or whatever.
Yeah, but like, I think that you also add to the partisanship where, and I actually found this out to be one of the most interesting things of the hearing, is finding out that like these scientists were putting like aborted fetus parts into mice.
Oh my God.
Like that. But you're turning it into kind of a sideshow at that point a little bit.
You're getting him to invoke the Fifth Amendment.
Right. and you're doing that intentionally.
I mean, because
Like,
is he perjuring himself if he answers these questions having been pardoned? It's a very interesting question, right? What does
well,
a pardon mean?
I think that's what Josh Hawley said, was that like you've received a pardon, but that doesn't escape you from like prosecution
Quite
necessarily.
quite the opposite, but like I mean, no, no, not quite the opposite. What I'm trying to say is it's giving him the opportunity to come clean because he can without
Right.
any repercussions. So like
But
that's where I'm
he,
coming at it.
I imagine that his counsel told him to plead the fifth on
I
everything
I would tell him to do that too.
so that they couldn't. I definitely would.
Yeah, I wouldn't have let him
So,
answer a
so
question.
that Republicans couldn't obfuscate anything to try and get around the pardon. And like by using something else he said to prosecute for something else or go even back further than um, 2014, which you obviously could because Fauci was killing people using AZT and shit like that to try and fight AIDS. And knowing that it was killing people, he was still giving people AZT. So, like, if you wanted to go back that far, which is probably a statute of limitations already passed, then you could. But it's like, you know, there was a partisanship to it for sure. With
But
Democrats not showing up, with Republicans throwing things like abortion and things like that in there, like, you know,
I mean, if
it
that's true,
just.
that's pretty fucked up. But
I mean, it is fucked up. Like, don't
um,
get me wrong, it's definitely fucked up.
I have a
They
question for
talked
you.
about like putting a baby's like a fetal scalp in like a bag and it growing hair later, and like putting that on a mouse or some shit. I don't know, man.
You know me, I'm not going out of my way to find out anything about that. That's fucking nuts. I have a question for you though. Like, are you surprised at how many people do just take the what they were told and they just accept it to this day, where they're like they do believe that the vaccine is what it was and that the second one was effective and that any of them were effective? And are you surprised that nobody seems to question this whole like wet market thing? Because I'm seeing it out there again where people are like, oh, these Republicans are making a sideshow of it. What they're saying is like pretty much the reality of what it was at the time.
I'm not surprised by that actually.
Even after all this time, wow, yeah.
I think people are inherently stupid, and the majority of people aren't willing to actually change their minds when presented with new evidence, which is a big
Yeah.
part of what makes them inherently stupid. Because, I mean, how many years did we sit here and fight about alternative facts or, you know, fake news or my truth, right? Like all that kind of shit goes into it where it's like, no, here's the actual facts of the situation. And then, you know, these same people will turn around and be like, well, the science just changed. Because that's how science works. It changes over time. Sure, but the people who were telling you that this wasn't as big of a problem, because even people like Scott Galloway now, who did change his mind on things, he said, yeah, it had like a 1% like kill rate, like it probably didn't need to go to the level that it went to, and like all this other stuff, which is a huge change for someone like him. But he's a smart guy, regardless of whether or not you like him. He's a smart guy, and he's willing to kind of like maneuver a little bit on his. He's still liberal, but he's willing to like maneuver a little bit on his thought process. Um, you know, it's just like people are going to continue to go with the narrative, and now with Republicans in power, even more so, they are protect the institutions, right? Even though the same people will turn around and tell you that these institutions are systemically racist and like everything else, but we have to protect the systemically racist institutions apparently, right? So
Yeah.
that's what I mean. Like it's smooth brain shit. Like anybody who still stands by their COVID stance to this day is a fucking moron. And like if you haven't learned any lessons by now, you never will.
That's a real shame. I fair enough. I have no reason to argue with any of that.
Well, so I was actually listening to Tim Robbins on Joe Rogan yesterday.
The actor?
I was cutting grass, yeah, and I thought he'd be like a shithead lib. You know what I mean? Like I
We're
really
talking
did.
like Tim Robbins, the older actor.
Yes, like Shawshank Redemption. Okay, which I actually did not know was written by Stephen King, by the way.
Oh yeah, Stevie King wrote
Yeah.
everything.
And it was like a novella that also
Yeah.
included like Stand By Me, which I knew he wrote that
Yeah,
in the same like novella. So he's talking about COVID because he brought up the fact that Fauci was going to be in front of Congress, and he even like said I'm more of like a COVID truther in the sense that like I wasn't for these closures and things like that. And he goes, I admit that I got a little carried away during COVID and maybe had said some things that probably weren't true and things. He goes, but I have looked at everything and kind of changed my mind. And he said, the last time that I was like that, he goes, I got shit on by the media for the Iraq war. He says, I was very outspoken about the Iraq war. And he said, the media was trying to drag me constantly, like writing articles saying that I'm not a patriot and all this other stuff. And he goes, but I was right, like the whole time. That, because it was like the WMDs thing and like all that shit. And he goes, no, that's definitely a lie. And he was getting dragged in the media for it back in the 2000s, early 2000s, and turns out he was right. And then he actually said, he goes, when COVID happened, I had the same feeling about like the Iraq war, that like a lot of this is not good, not real, not true,
Well, there's a lot of what I saw yesterday was just revisiting all the crazy cult of personality stuff about like the Fauci dolls, the Fauci pillows, Fauci action figures, and the guy was kind of considered like a saint. I think you could go on Amazon still and buy like a Saint Fauci candle. Like they're still out there.
That's what I mean. And part of his diary was like, oh, I'm the most famous scientist like in the world. And like, we definitely learned that he is an egomaniac, like a narcissist. He's all of those things.
You know how I know? You know how you could tell is because he wrote a diary. Like grown men and men of a certain age are not going to write their fucking lives down in a diary. He thought he was important enough that he should record his thoughts at the time because somebody might think he was important enough to look back on it and go, "Wow, what a wise person."
He probably definitely thinks that his diary is more important than the diary of Anne Frank.
He probably does. It's crazy because like I don't even like people are like, oh, why would you bring up his diaries at all? I'm like, why does a grown man have a diary, or whatever you want to call it?
Well, so you said like he wrote it on a government owned computer. So generally speaking, those are accessible to the public via Freedom of the Information Act, right? So
yes, and Congress.
Yeah, but the thing is, if nobody knows that he's writing it really, then
correct.
You don't know to query for it. So that's why it's coming out now, as opposed to if it might have held more merit probably if it came out in the like 2-3 years ago as opposed to now, right? Like I think it would have held more merit. But like I said, it's already been a super partisan issue. I mean, even the vaccine was a partisan issue, like Project
It was
Warp
bad
Speed,
and then it was
right?
good.
Yeah, everyone was like, I'm not taking a Trump vaccine. Even Kamala Harris said that she would never take a Trump vaccine. And then as soon as she was vice president and Biden came in, it was like, you have to get vaccinated. Here's your vaccine cards. Like, here's all of your shit. And let's all not forget that you don't have to show an ID to vote, but you had to show a vaccine card to have dinner.
That's exactly where I was going to go with this, is that it's so funny that we freak out about the papers, please, for voting. But we totally went in on papers, please, with like, can you go to this football game? Well, I don't know. Do you have your papers?
Right.
Like,
and it doesn't make any
nuts.
sense. Like, it makes no sense. And I'm pretty sure when you got your when you went to get your vaccine, you probably had to show an ID of some sort, right? Like, because it's medical.
Yeah, I think
And
so.
like usually they ask for your license and shit like that when you go to your doctor. So,
Also,
chances are pretty good.
I want to mention that like there was so much pressure to conform that like there was a fear, like even on this podcast, I had a fear that like should we bring up any of this, including the lab leak, which to me is like not off the table at all. But like I was like, will we get kicked off of a platform if we talk about this? And there was like that whole idea that like, oh, you're not wearing your mask, like you're a bad person. And then it was like conform. And then after, when it was well over, maybe a year and a half over, these public officials in like Los Angeles were still trying to say like, I don't know if we can open up a football stadium. And it was very like I had flashbacks of all that pressure. I remember the first time I wore a mask into a Lowe's, or I took my mask off. I didn't wear it in the Lowe's, and everybody else had it on, and I felt like I was okay, and I wasn't going to get approached, but I still felt incredibly uncomfortable.
Well, that's because generally back then people were, one, really scared, and two, still kind of like a pussy about like getting in people's faces about shit. Now you see it's a little different. People are a little bit more quick or apt to get into your face and try to tell you you're wrong about stuff, like, because we've had 4 more years of the internet, and people being keyboard warriors and shit that get, people are starting to like lose their fucking candor, in my opinion, like out in public. And I don't know, like, where I wonder where this is going to lead, right?
Because... I know where. I can answer that.
Okay, give it to me.
Okay, so
I don't know.
This is where it goes. It goes climate change, then it went to COVID, then it went to the racial reckoning, and then it went to Israel. It's going to anti-Semitism, right? Like it's all leading to that. All these causes, they all got tied together in an order like dominoes.
Question.
Yes.
And you can Google this, and I'm sure you will find something. How is climate change anti-Semitic? Google it. We talked about this on the podcast before.
Yes.
You can Google climate change anything, and you'll find an article.
It doesn't matter if it's a legitimate article or not. It's that somebody out there had the thought to tie one thing to the other thing.
I actually proved this concept to a friend of mine who is a super duper climate changey person, and he claims to not be a liberal, but every time he opens his mouth, it's something liberal comes out. So like, if it walks like a duck, talks like a duck, it's probably a cat, right? So, and I just made that up. That's not real. That's not the saying. But
fact check his ass.
But I literally just Googled climate change and sex, and there was an article about how climate change is affecting people's like proclivity for having sex and things like that. Like, it's just anything. I mean, like I said, we've talked about that and proved it out on this podcast, that if you just Google climate change plus whatever you want, blank anything, and you'll find an article for it. Like, we did climate change hot dogs, and we were talking about how the making of hot dogs is like contributing to climate change. So now we need to know how climate change is anti-Semitic.
Yes.
That's what
So
I'll do that.
I'll cap my thought here was just that, like, you have this thing and it's this like overwhelming omni-cause, and it's climate change for a really long time. And then something else came along, and it was an excuse to kind of move on from that to the latest, like, I got to be an activist for COVID. And then COVID just fucked everybody's brains up, and they went to the next thing and the next thing. So like, that's where it ended up. I mean, it ended up with Zoran Mamdani, and it ended up with, I don't know what, you name it. Like, it's the final boss of every problem, every issue ever, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've reached the final boss is climate change, right?
Well, climate change is an excuse for a lot of different things, but there are policies that they couldn't implement because it didn't make any sense. But then COVID was like, okay, now we can go really nuts.
I'll be really interested to see how climate change affects the whole like UFO thing. since we've been getting those large dumps of like UFO information.
You know what? The UFO thing's been interesting because I needed evidence, visual evidence, to be convinced. In a way,
And
I
you got
can't
it.
listen. I can't listen to some fucking idiot and say like, "Oh, there's aliens. Did you know that?" And I'm going like, "Because you said so." Like, no. But then I see these videos and I'm like, "This is actually compelling. I'm able to change my opinion on things over time."
Of course, because you
And
have a
and
brain
I
that has
wish
some that like has a wrinkle or two in it.
maybe one, but it's a flop. And I wonder like why that isn't a bigger deal. Maybe it's because it's just there's so many questions around it. It raises more questions than it actually answers. The transparency doesn't really resolve anything, but it does. I'm surprised more people don't talk about it.
I think what's interesting in context of you and I is like you needed this like overwhelming evidence, right? That came from declassified files. I just carte blanche like blindly believed in aliens. Like like I didn't need proof. I just was like, yeah, statistically that makes sense.
It's totally a reasonable thing, by the way, to assume. If it like, why wouldn't? But I needed more than just like the hearsay of somebody who's like, I was once at Area 51 in the 70s and I saw a glowing ball, and it's like you're like I don't know, 400-year-old man who can barely speak, and I don't know.
So now the question comes, do we have to start believing people that said they were abducted? And that's one
Maybe.
question that I have not seen asked or answered by anyone is like, are we at the believe all abductees version of the United States where like if you're like, yeah, I was abducted by aliens, like do we now have to go back and like re-examine that and be like, they might have.
Brad, I was once shit-faced in Austin, Texas. I don't know if you remember this. We were together. And that night, it could have felt like I was abducted by aliens. So, like, I don't know that I believe everybody if, like, they got high or something and they went out and they were like, I got abducted. It's like, were you fucked up? I mean, that's where you have to be like, I don't know. It depends on the person. Because you're right. Maybe somebody has been abducted.
I think it's just one of them things now, like how do you determine whether that is true? Like we were at the believe all women stage of things, and now it's like we have to believe all alien
Well, I didn't
abductees.
believe all
Like
women either.
that's what I
So,
mean. Like what are we doing here? And
like,
now that there's evidence of aliens directly from the government, I mean,
it's not evidence of aliens either. Like, I want to be clear. It's just really, really clear video of things doing weird shit that physics can't explain, that no man-made object can actually do. And I will say some of them look an awful lot like a set of balloons that were floating in the sky, but some of them are pretty fucking real.
we had a couple of those some Chinese spy balloons, if I remember correctly.
It's fun to remember that. We definitely moved on from the fact that we shot down like an air-to-air like balloon with a missile.
That was like a day of worrying about it. Like,
That's crazy.
and
Remember all the
nobody's asked
drones?
about it since.
The drones over like Jersey, and they're like, "What are these drones?" And they're like, "We're gonna get to the bottom of it." And then it never came up again.
No, it's because
It's
the
like,
news
what?
cycle's too short.
It's way too short.
They put that drone shit out on a Friday. It was gone by mid afternoon on Saturday.
I mean, I'm even like learning about these flock cameras for the first time, and I had to ask about it. I'm like, what the fuck are these flock cameras? The reason why I learned about it is because I live in a dipshit small town, and they had a flock camera that somebody destroyed.
Dude,
And I was like, what? A flock camera here?
I just saw this story, but there was a guy that just posted up in a lawn chair underneath a flock camera, and he blocked it with like a sign, and people were coming out and like giving him snacks and drinks and shit like that, so he could sit there longer and stop the flock cameras.
That's the shit that bothers me is like there is stuff that I don't know about that's going on around me. Flock cameras are one of them. I was not aware of this at all, and it's like, oh, they're everywhere,
It
and
just
AI's
popped up,
using
man.
them.
It
Yeah.
just popped up, and it's because these flock cameras just started like peeping on people and shit. Like
We
for
know
no
exactly
reason.
what they're doing.
And you know what I think became the downfall of it? I think the first story I saw was that a cop was intentionally using flock cameras to like spy on naked women or something like that.
Yeah,
And I
that's
think he was
tracks.
fired. And now it's just like flock camera everything.
Well, I'm told that a laser pointer can do some damage, but I haven't verified that. It's stuff like that, you know. It's just like the news cycle being short, you know, and you're like, I mean, AI is even like it's moving at such a pace, and then it's like grinding to a halt at such a pace that you're just kind of like getting whiplash from it.
It's so funny because like you think of the flock camera and like the AI integration to it, right? And you think about China, and they've just willingly given up all of their attempts at privacy to these cameras that are infiltrated with AI. Like they constantly use like facial recognition and all this other shit. Like China is what like CIA movies are portrayed as, where they just like zoom in on these cameras, it automatically like identifies your face, pulls up information about you, all that other shit. That's what these flock cameras are, it seems, and that's what China does. And people just like willingly have given themselves up to it, and it is nice to see that people are pushing back against that now. But it's just weird to me that people are selectively angry about shit. Like when it comes to this, like I'm a anti-statist absolutist in terms of like I don't want the government to do anything, and people are just picking and choosing what they're okay with the government doing. So
Well, that's because people are okay with the government doing some things. I mean, you're not you're unique in that way that most people aren't. But I do think people in America are like, the fuck? I mean, we have the ability to kind of go what the fuck too, and you know, like Britain is like a failed state now, so that's kind of a good example where like you know, you get in trouble for thought crimes there now, and we don't do that so well.
yeah, did you see when that when I'm sorry that car plowed through a pride parade and they wouldn't state the fact that the guy was like I believe he was there illegally
Mm-hmm.
and he was a Muslim, and they would not state any of those facts at all, and they were just like a car plows through a pride parade and injures like 16 people.
Yeah, they'll also say like M. Mitchell for like the name of somebody, and it'll be like Muhammad Mitchell or whatever. Like they leave out key details on purpose. It's anti-journalism actually, and they've become extremely good at it. Yeah, the, everything sucks. An
It
ongoing
does.
series.
Everything does suck. what what in your opinion today doesn't suck?
Uh, well, even video games are getting bad. You know, movies are good.
Some movies,
Yeah, some movies.
not all
Um,
movies. Pinocchio and Strong, not good.
yeah, I could actually be a doomer for another hour, but I don't want to do that anymore. We covered a lot of ground though.
Oh, for sure. It's interesting because we are covering a swath of topics.
I mean, we didn't talk about Iran, but like almost it's not coverable because at the beginning I told you if they don't like get regime change and they don't actually stick the landing, they lost the war. Feels like they lost the war.
Nothing's happening really. Like the Strait of Hormuz is open, it's closed, it's open, it's closed.
Yeah, the markets
And
are doing this.
so Saudi Arabia was like, oh, we're just gonna ship oil across the country and go through shit. What's it's a different strait.
Nobody
It's
knows.
it's a different strait, but then the Houthis, who in Yemen are firing rockets at these oil tankers because they're backed by Iran. So they don't want the oil going through because they want you to go through the Strait of Hormuz. And so apparently there was like a deal where like Iran got like 50% of like tolls or whatever,
That's
and then
crazy.
I think someone else got the other 50%. It was like split, and Iran was like, no, we want 100% of it.
Well, and we were
And
like, we'll tow it, and it's like that would make you a pirate, actually. Like you can't just do that. And then it was like, oh, we had a memorandum of understanding. It wasn't gonna stick because the Iranians are master negotiators in one sense. They just kind of buy time, and president after president falls for it, and they're doing it again. And
the thing
actually,
is,
there's yes,
Iran has nothing to lose. Like,
correct.
they're already sanctioned as much as you can really sanction somebody, right? And unless you're willing to put ground troops there into Iran and actually infiltrate regime change, there's no winning. Like, short of leveling the entire country, which isn't going to happen, a lot of their shit is buried in the mountains, and like we can't get to it with just normal bombs. Like, there is no winning here. Like, you would have to send in troops, which is wildly unpopular.
Totally on the table though, because Pickaxe Mountain in particular, you could either destroy it with like something of a nuke, or you could like go in there with like bulldozers and do like probably the most intense ground operation military wise that's ever been done. Like you could do that. That's the
They would have
goal,
to. It's the only option, because the initial thought was that the people of Iran would rise up and like overthrow their own regime if
which
we
is what they
just
were
dropped
promised.
bombs, and that is what we were told, and it didn't happen.
They
Didn't
not only did
didn't
they
happen.
come out, they came out, they got completely slaughtered, and to this day they're executing people off of cranes and they're hanging bodies everywhere. And they
Yeah,
came
didn't
out.
and then didn't Trump say he wanted the Kurds to go in or something like that? And like,
Actually, I think that was the Israelis that were like, we might get the Kurds, but again, it was such a there were so many different things going on, and if any one of them didn't work out, then the entire operation wasn't going to work. So, like the fact that like the Iranian state television can still like broadcast is like, why haven't we done anything about that? Let alone all this other shit.
because the people of Iran would have nothing else to watch.
I guess, yeah. I mean, really, like the only way you can really like win this going forward is probably just to like punish them so severely with their infrastructure that they have nothing. They can't control the population anymore. But we aren't doing that. We're like, nah,
But
bits and
and
pieces.
that doesn't really help you install like a new regime that's more
Absolutely
Western
not.
friendly either, because then there's no infrastructure for them to work off of.
Well,
So
the thing too is like the
it's
fact
not
that they
helpful.
wanted Ahmadinejad and that he was the guy that they were talking to. That to me is shocking. I was like, I couldn't believe that because I mean, I believe that they thought they could get him in, but like that guy was like the most anti-Western guy on the world stage at one point, and then he's like he turned. I don't know why. I don't know what the reason was.
Well, I mean, to be fair, um, every time we've done regime change, it hasn't exactly worked out favorably.
Mm,
I mean, it does maybe in the short term, but in the long term, not so much. I mean, Saddam Hussein being one of them.
yeah. Well, and then we regime changed him, and then it maybe did work. I don't know.
And actually,
Um,
we regime changed Iran to what it is now, and like now it's bad. Like, I mean, we did that. We overthrew the Shah back in what, the '60s,
we did not
something like
overthrow the
that,
Shah. We installed the
or
Shah.
installed the Shah, whatever.
Yeah.
And it look at where we're at now. We're back into trying to regime change somebody 40, 50 years later.
I guess the good news is Saudi Arabia is taking it seriously because they did some strikes in Iraq recently because there's still stuff going on in Iraq for whatever reason. But the fact that the region's taking it seriously is nice, and maybe France too. They might actually be resetting a little.
It'll put that treaty to that Trump got them all to sign to the test. Really,
Abraham Accords.
yeah. I'll say that's actually a good thing in that regard. Like, seeing if they're actually going to hold true to those accords and like, try to stabilize the region. But I don't know. It's
Um,
we're in for the long haul, right? Because
yeah,
even this this is going to go through to the next president, right? Like, I don't see Iran stopping anytime soon. Although I guess Congress did just try to pass a War Powers Act to like rein Trump in, but that hasn't stopped us from bombing again. So I don't know exactly how that's going to work, because he can just declare it's like some kind of national security issue and
He gets
keep
like a
bombing.
60-day clock, but like the clock resets, so like that isn't
Right.
that's
So,
where like Congress needs to step in.
oh, so you bomb them for 50 days and then you take a break for like a week and then keep bombing them. Like,
Brad, I mean, from what I hear, like we were running out of just defensive munitions. Like we just didn't have the stock.
yeah, but so I've been talking about that since we started funding Ukraine 4 years ago, 5 years
I
ago, right?
I know
And
you have, but it's
because
not the
and
same
that's
thing.
it's a very no, it's a very real situation where we don't have the munitions, right? So l- luckily for those industries, that will be a boon because they're going to be asking for more and more people, more and more employees to produce more and more firepower, etc. Um, but it's very much the truth. Like we are giving away, not giving away, but selling a lot of munitions and stuff to other countries, and it's preventing our military from staying fully capable.
Okay, so I'll grant you that
It's just a
that's
fact.
definitely true. But I also think that probably the best thing that could have happened for Ukraine is that we were so stingy on everything because they had to, I don't know, innovate with drone technology to where now they can fly drones at a high speed, high altitude, 40,000 feet, 80 miles an hour, and take out stuff in the air. Like, it's
Oh
pretty
yeah, and
remarkable.
I wasn't commenting on my particular position in the war of Ukraine. I was merely commenting on the defense aspect of it with munitions falling short and things like that. That's merely what I was commenting on. I think my position about Ukraine's very well known, so that's
I
not what I'm
Group
making the
chat
point
leaks
on.
into the podcast
Right. So,
sometimes.
like, it's just we do have to worry about our own defense and our own munitions before everyone else. Like it's the America first part, right? Like we need to maintain security at home before we give security elsewhere. Like I think that's just natural, but it's not how America does things.
Well, we have not done ourselves any favors in just modernizing, making things cheaper until probably the last year. So more to come on that, I guess. I mean, you just watch Andurl's Instagram feed and you'll know exactly where things are going. Brad, I want to talk about movies now. Can we talk about the Odyssey?
Absolutely, you can. This is not going to be spoiler free, so if you don't want to hear spoilers,
I've
fuck
been
off.
mocked for saying, "Oh, I don't want to spoil the 4,000-year-old story," but come on, man. Uh, I
But
knew about it.
you will because he didn't follow the story directly.
No,
Like
he
if we're
he
being
did not.
honest,
No. Brad, on five, rate it on 5 stars. What are you giving it?
I thought it was at least 4 stars. I know that you letterboxed it at
I
lower.
did 3.
I would say it's at least 4 stars. The the issues around like Lupita Nyong'o and Elliot Page are a little overblown in the sense that their on-screen time combined is less than 10 minutes in a fucking 3 hour long movie.
Yeah, we ought to
So,
mention that like anybody who overpraised this movie was wrong in my opinion, and anybody who criticized it before watching it also wrong. Very stupid.
yeah, I think technically speaking, it is a masterpiece of a movie, right? I think from a filmmaking standpoint, it's an absolute fucking masterclass from Nolan again. When
Nobody's
you
ever done
look
it.
right, when you look at the practical effects that he uses, and even like when Odysseus's men are like at the witch and she's turning them into the pigs, like that was a very like vulgar scene, really, like kind of almost horror movie esque, and that was all practical effects. I mean, there obviously is bits of CGI in there, but that's pretty standard. But it was done practically. the fucking Cyclops was done with a giant, Cyclops puppet that they fucking made. Um, and there's just a level of filmmaking that he does that not everybody is capable of.
Yeah, and I will say my favorite scene was actually the sirens because I'm kind of a sucker for ocean creepiness and like
That's the one I
things.
missed. I went to the bathroom.
I mean, you didn't miss much. The point is you didn't miss much actually. Like they don't you only get to hear the music, you only get to see his reaction, and there's just these things that are off in the distance in the hazy mist. And something about that in the daytime on the ocean, it gives me like the chills. And to me that was like my favorite, like wow. Like he's actually gonna not show us anything here.
Which was I actually thought was cool because I went back and like watched the scene online or whatever, and the fact that like they don't have the actual siren song. Like he didn't come up with a siren song that would like make people go mad, right? Like he took it from the point of view of the crew where they can't hear anything. And so you don't get to hear anything because the only person to ever hear that song and live was Odysseus. And so like I thought that the thought process behind that was very interesting. But then I saw a meme, like a video that was that scene, but instead of the siren song, it was the J.G. Wentworth song as the siren song. And as a former employee of J.G. Wentworth, I found that honestly hilarious. So
that is brilliant. Yeah, I'll say like I told you there's not a bad shot in the movie. I stand by that. What I don't think I loved about it was just that it's just a good movie. I don't think it's the greatest thing. I think Oppenheimer is his like magnus opus. And so I watch this and I go like this is great. I'm glad people are reading the Odyssey. Like that's awesome to me. It's awesome that people are going to go see a 3-hour movie. It's awesome that it made so much money. It's all practical effects. All that's fucking great.
dude,
But the movie itself,
700 million in 2 weeks.
yeah, it's wild.
And from what I hear, almost all IMAX theaters are sold out for 2 straight more weeks. So like he's gonna
he
hit
did
$1
it.
billion in the first month.
He did it. I mean, he's tried IMAX for a long time and he could not figure it out, and he finally figured it out. Now I'm going to say something that's like unpopular probably, but that you have this like cast and like Matt Damon is not great. I mean, he's fine, but he's not like giving the performance of a lifetime here. He's mostly just like going along. Really, Anne Hathaway's the one who steals the show, and Tom Holland is a really bad casting choice.
I thought Matt Damon was definitely better in The Departed.
I think Matt Damon's better in The Last
Sure.
Duel. I mean, he's great in a lot of stuff,
that
but
was a great movie.
he's great in Oppenheimer. I mean, this
Yeah,
he's just I'm just a bearded guy who's trying to get home.
I think I would agree with you that it probably wasn't his best performance. But I would say also that the script probably lacked a little.
Oh,
Like, I don't
thank
think
you.
it's
Yeah.
Nolan's most well-written movie.
There is a line in there where he says, "This is the end of the Bronze Age," and it completely removed me from the movie because I was like,
Yeah.
nobody's calling it the Bronze Age if they're living through the Bronze Age. You don't even know what
Yeah.
that is.
No, that term probably wasn't coined until hundreds of years later, if not
But also
1,000 years
the
later.
like the dads and all that. Like I get it. He's trying to look. He can put it would do whatever he wants. Like I'm totally okay with his like loose interpretation of things. That's fine. I'm just going to be a critic of it when I watch it.
So one thing Tom Holland said about that, right? About
Dad.
using dad instead of father or like anything else, and people complaining about the more modern use of English. He said, "Well, if we wanted to be true to this, we'd be speaking Greek," and that's fair. That's fair. You can't make an actual adaptation of it if they're not all speaking Greek, because
I also don't want
that was the
one.
language.
Yeah, like,
No.
I don't want to watch a Greek adaptation of like no.
No, but I
I accept
are
it.
faults with this movie. I will say, as far as filmmaking goes, you could use that film to teach how to make films, like, without a doubt.
Yeah,
It's not the most well written script that Nolan's ever done, for sure.
but it's a crowd
Um,
pleaser.
yeah, and I will say Robert Pattinson just plays that role
Mm,
so good, like as Antinuous or
mm-hmm.
whatever, like that smarmy fucking smug asshole. Like he just does that role impeccably,
Yeah, he's
and
great.
he did it throughout the whole movie, and he was like a whiny little bitch up to the end. Like he did give a great performance. I thought Anne Hathaway gave a great performance. Um, you know, the lady who played the witch, I can't remember her name. She was very good. She was in like The Walking Dead. I don't know if you knew that.
No.
She was in like a couple seasons of The Walking Dead. She was bald in it. Um, and she played the leader of this group called the Whisperers, where they would like wear zombie skin and like walk in groups of like zombies undetected and shit. So she was on that for like a couple of seasons, I think. So I recognized her from that. And apparently she gave such a good performance that like people were crying off camera, which I don't know. Like
Lame.
I don't know if that would happen. It's like
Brian,
to
I'm going to
me,
step away for
you
one
know what I
second.
mean?
You can keep
Okay.
talking.
Okay. Um, but it definitely was a good movie. I probably enjoyed it more than you did, for sure. Um, but I don't know. I enjoy the IP generally as a whole. Um, but where I do take some fault is like he merged pieces of the book together to he probably had to like shorten up the film. But like the flower eating with Calypso and stuff like that, like in the book, his whole crew was like eating lotus flower and forgot about home, not just him. So like Nolan took the liberty to like merge parts of the book to try and smash all the shit in there. And but one of the things that I didn't like was with Elliot Page, not because of Elliot Page, but because of the story in general. When he goes to Hades, he meets Achilles in Hades instead of Sinon, because Sinon was not in the Odyssey. But
Right.
I do think it's important to note that Nolan took a lot of the Iliad and put it into the Odyssey. Like everything that happens in Troy, with like the horse, all that shit was in the Iliad, not the Odyssey. So he kind of took both books and put them together.
Well, I mean, actually, I forgot to mention that Hades scene. That actually is really fucking awesome how they like how he decided to get them to speak, they needed the blood of sacrifice. And so his like way of putting that on screen was really interesting.
Yeah, but I think one of the things that was missed was like in the Odyssey, Odysseus gets a bag full of wind, and it's
Yes.
all like the bad winds.
And it's like, don't open this bag.
And yeah, and they're like, don't open the bag. And what happens is he's almost home, like in his ship, he can see Ithaca, but the men were so untrusting of him because they thought he was hiding treasure that they open the bag and it blows them off course when he's almost back in Ithaca. So like they could have just gotten home and like been fine, but they were untrusting of him, which Nolan did kind of portray a bit.
Yeah, they lost confidence in him over time.
Yeah, I would say so. But like one of the things I told you about the movie that you hadn't heard before was like they got a bunch of stunt doubles that were all like under 5 foot, and then a bunch of stunt doubles that were like 7 foot tall, and they did the scene where they fight the giants, like the man-eating giants that destroy two of the three ships
They're
that
the
he has.
cannibals, right? Aren't they like a
Yeah,
cannibal race?
yeah, but see, you never see that. Like,
Right.
all you see is them get like thrown through trees and shit. I don't see them eating anybody. And so there was probably more like horror based elements that could have been incorporated into the movie that you don't get because of Christopher Nolan's like just knack for not doing horror.
Which he said he wants to do. I'm like, okay, well, you haven't ever done that before. So,
But so, what horror? Somebody just brought this up, and I can't remember what they said. What horror property do you think would fit a Christopher Nolan type film?
uh,
Because he's so good at making like adventure type and action type films. But like remember he did like Memento and like, you know, a couple other things. Insomnia, which was yes, horror-esque thriller, for sure. But I'm like, what property in horror do you think he could tackle that is even worth it? Because like he said he would love to do it, but it has to be the right IP. And it's just like what IP could he pick? I wouldn't hate a reboot of The Thing if Christopher Nolan did it. I mean, I might because I love that movie. Like to me, it's one. Yeah, like it really is like a perfect film. Um, I don't know. I've actually been thinking about it, and I, from like a pure horror standpoint, I don't think that there is one. Right? Like, yeah. I mean, they're already rebooting The Mummy, or doing, well, not rebooting, but like starting another version of it with Brendan Fraser, coming back. Yeah, and that hasn't been done in quite a long time. It's just, you know what? Robert Eggers is doing like all them fucking creature features now. Like he did Nosferatu, and then he has Werewolf coming out this year, like at Christmas time. So like I just don't know, but I would be interested if he had something like, yeah. I like Brendan Fraser, but I must say I just watched that movie Pressure. He is not really believable as Eisenhower. It just, I don't think he does the stern military man thing very well. That's, it's, yeah, he does. It's not. He's an interesting character. He did an interview with like The Rock because of obviously the Mummy and like the Scorpion King thing, and Brendan, actually, The Rock said, "Thank you for giving me my acting career." Not that he's had a great one, but like, thank you for giving me that because Brendan Fraser had like final say on who played the Scorpion King and stuff. And so he okayed The Rock, and like, so The Rock was like thanking him in this interview, and Brendan Fraser was like almost in tears. And he's like, "Oh, you're just an amazing person," and like all this other shit. I'm like, this dude's fucking weird, man. Like, because I don't remember a lot of interviews with him, but like, you were in Encino Man. Like, it's just like, you can't be this like super nice guy. Like, what the fuck? Like, it's just so weird. Um, no, that's like him just exceptionally fat. um, like, but he just, yeah, he is that guy. And then I don't know if you remember Blast from the Past. That's him. like to a T. This like incredibly just nice, wholesome, generous person. Like, who the fuck wants to see that? That's not that doesn't make you compelling. Yeah, one of the things I would say I was disappointed in coming out of the theater and not even just like reflecting back on it, but I was immediately disappointed is when they're heading towards the whirlpool. And the way that they did the whirlpool was cool because they had a bunch of jet skis running around in circles to create like the initial like look of the whirlpool, and then obviously had to like CGI like the depth of it in. But what they did is had jet skis just going around in a big circle in the ocean to kind of create this like whirlpool look. Um, but when they went into the strait, um, away from the whirlpool, that like six-headed monster thing that comes down and like eats people, it just looked like a gray blob. I don't know, like no, it looked like the rocks that it was coming out of. Like I don't know, they could have done something I thought a little bit more interesting with that. But what I heard they did in that is like the people that were pulled out were wearing like harnesses, and they just literally yanked them into the air like out of the ship, like for real, like yanked them like right the fuck out, and then probably had to like CGI and some other shit, right? But like they were legitimately like harnessed in and just ripped out of the ship. And I'm and of course they did some of it like that. But so what he does is he builds like a practical base, and then you have to CGI for scale and things like that. But ultimately, I thought they did a pretty good job. Oh yeah, I I'm actually interested to see the like 4DX thing for the Odyssey. Like I would go if I had one near me. Like I would go by myself, but like because your fucking seat moves and like they spray you with water and like all this kind of shit like in these 40X films, and I didn't even know that that was really a thing. And so I would like to see it from that perspective, but they're because they're on a boat a lot. But like those times when they're in the storms and like how much water are they squirting you with, like I kind of want to know a little bit about that. uh you don't want to know. It's at least a 4. It was way better than the first one. What are you even talking about? It had way more fatalities. It even had a friendship in it. you're you were dumb. You are so dumb. That movie was fantastic. Oh my god, it's so good. It's so good. That's a great one. I didn't even know that they had that. Like I haven't seen that at my movie theater that has those. Oh, okay. Yeah, I only have one Cinemark near me, but incredible. You're welcome, buddy. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Awesome. Catch you later. Peace.